I am so excited about today's podcast. As some of you guys know, I have lost literally 45 pounds. Problem was, one day I woke up, I contacted the clinic and they said, yeah, we've decided not to carry it anymore. I'm like, what the hell happened to HCG? This is like helping so many people.
Weight loss is such an individual issue. And if you imagine a wheel and you have a bunch of different spokes in the wheel, those different spokes are represented by different aspects that affect weight loss and your ability to lose fat. I think the big pros of HCG that I can tell is that it gave people a lot of hope that something can be done on an underlying level rather than just putting a Band-Aid on the issue. It had lasting effects, it seemed like, and I think that gave people a lot of hope. And the good news is there are other things that work on this kind of cell signaling or cell communication level that perhaps just have more research behind them.
That's another thing that I love about Alexis, because my other doctor kind of took the approach of like, you get old, you're going to die, you're going to deal with things. We'll put you on some meds and slap a Band-Aid on it. And Alexis over here like, no, let's try to figure out what's causing this and see if we can get to the root of the problem instead of just treating the symptom.
You're listening to the Brittney Richardson Experience.
I am so excited about today's podcast. As some of you guys know, I have lost literally 45 pounds. Just to give you a demonstration, this just came in yesterday, I have a simulated 5-pound human fat blob.
Amazing.
I was going to order 9 of these because that is how much weight I lost, guys. But I realized these were $100 a piece on Amazon, and I didn't like to pay $900 for giant fat blobs. So if you can imagine with me, 9 of these is how much weight I lost. And the interesting thing, I actually filmed a documentary on this because it was so amazing. I came from a family that everybody's obese, everybody's overweight. And I hate saying this word because it just sounds so cliche, but I felt like I literally tried everything and nothing was working. I would always yo-yo diet, up and down on the weight, except with me, it was also ascending at the same time. So it was even more frustrating. Well, I finally found something that worked. What I want to share with you today is what that one thing is and what happened to that one thing, because it was taken off the market to my surprise. And for that, I'm going to bring on Dr. Alexis Shields. She is a neuropathic doctor offering virtual health consulting, a data-driven assessment of your blood test results, and a health plan to help you live a longer, healthier life. She is also my personal doctor. So welcome to the podcast, Alexis.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'll tell you what sealed the deal when I found you was your smile. You have the most authentic smile. Like seriously, I've studied body language. I'm ex-law enforcement. And I don't know if you guys have ever noticed, like on those billboards, real estate advertisements, you can tell when somebody has a fake smile. And not only did she have all these qualifications and believed in preventative medicine, but she also had the most authentic smile. So I just wanted to give you that compliment.
Thank you so much. That's so nice of you. Thank you.
You're welcome. So I guess I should probably start by giving our audience kind of a background of what happened with me and what led us up to this point today. And that's something that helped me lose so much weight is something called a HCG, human chorionic gonadotropin. It's a hormone found in pregnancy. So many people had found success with HCG. It had been featured on Dr. Oz, numerous television programs. It seemed to be like the thing at the end of the road that really helped a lot of people lose weight that couldn't. Long story short, I found this clinic out of Florida and I decided to try HCG. I started losing weight like really fast. I lost like 10 pounds in the first week. My blood pressure, I was having blood pressure issues. My blood pressure came down significantly during that time. I'll tell you what happened. I went to go visit my primary care physician, and this is literally how things went. I got the HCG through a weight loss clinic. And so I go for a routine checkup, come in, doctor comes in, and first thing she says to me, pulls up my chart. She goes, I see you're on HCG. You want to tell me about this? And so I did. And I was so excited. I was like, yes, I have dropped, I think it was 11 pounds the first week. And blood pressure is coming down. Like, I was so excited about this. And she just stops me in the middle of it and goes, well, we're not going to do that. We're going to take you off of that. And I'm going to go ahead and forward you to our weight loss clinic. And she had some prescription in mind, which I don't remember the name of it, but later I talked to a friend and he was saying, that's the stuff I was on. And I used to be on methamphetamines. He said, that stuff made me feel the same way I did when I was on methamphetamine. And he said, it's like, I had the hardest time getting off of it. So thank God I didn't listen to her, but I was so disappointed that she was so skeptical on something that was working for me. So I fired my doctor. I found Alexis, filmed this documentary on my weight loss journey. So many people started asking me, where are you getting this HCG? So I started forwarding them to the clinic. They got on it. They started losing weight themselves. I got so many testimonies from people losing weight. The only problem was one day I woke up, I had messages saying, hey, we called the clinic. They're saying they don't have HCG. What? So I contacted the clinic and they said, yeah, we've decided not to carry it anymore. I'm like, what the hell happened to HCG? This is like helping so many people. So long story short, call some other clinics. They no longer have HCG. Let's start by, why don't you tell us a little bit about HCG and kind of what happened to HCG? Because it was like gone overnight.
Right. So HCG, like you were saying, it's a hormone produced by the placenta during pregnancy, found in the urine or measured in the urine. And the FDA has approved that treatment for female infertility and some male hormone treatments, but no other purposes. So there were some studies that were done, several double-blind placebo-controlled studies that showed that the HCG treatment in combination with the very low-calorie diet, because the actual treatment was HCG in combination with a 500-calorie diet. So when they did the studies, they found that there were no differences basically in the treatment and control groups. People who followed the very low calorie diet lost the same amount of weight as the people who were also doing HCG. That was there, there's a few issues with that because it's not really telling us if there are long-term benefits to doing both treatments together versus, just the very low calorie diet. So there was a lot of research that probably still needs to be done, but in the amount of research that we have so far, there wasn't any compelling reason to approve it for any other purposes than some infertility and male hormone imbalances. And so the FDA ended up issuing warning letters to a lot of the clinics and compounding pharmacies that were providing this treatment, and basically saying if you don't pull the products, then you may have to face legal penalties or criminal prosecution. And so, everyone removed it until we know more information, basically. The good thing is that there are some alternatives that I think have even better evidence behind them in terms of research that's been done and safety profiles and ease of use and all of that. And so we can go into that, after this, but basically HCG is something that has been removed from the market because there wasn't a compelling kind of research body behind it saying that it was working for weight loss, even though people were having, we're definitely experiencing some improvements.
Yeah, and I think it was kind of unfortunate in a way too, because I understand the skepticism, but Dr. Simeons, who I think I'm saying that right, who came up with this protocol originally, this was back in the 50s. Like, this has been used successfully for weight loss for so many years. And one of the things that he pointed out was that the difference he was noticing, at least in his literature, was that you're getting rid of things like the visceral fat. You're not just losing the subcutaneous Fat. Am I saying that right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Basically, he was seeing patients that were not on HCG. They were losing weight in the face. They looked, aged, losing fat under the skin. But the stubborn fats, like in the stomach or the hips or the butt or whatever, were not leaving until he put them on HCG. It was like it almost changed the way that it targeted fats in the body. And it's so disappointing to see the FDA took such a harsh view on it rather than doing more research. Like, that really disappointed me.
Yeah, it's really, it's a tricky situation because safety profiles need to be proven for all the different types of uses, and the way that people are using HCG wasn't studied enough to really have a good safety profile background check kind of done on that. And so I think it's a tricky issue, especially because it became a really big, it was kind of a really hot thing for a while, was to do HCG weight loss programs. And that, I think the speed that it came to market also produced a lot of problems, which was, people getting products that maybe weren't from reputable facilities, and they weren't working with physicians, because anytime you have rapid weight loss, there can be some negative side effects and things that happen that need to be monitored by a physician. And so I think, the speed that it came to market also flagged the FDA to look at it, because of just safety reasons, and everyone seemed to overnight kind of come up with their own HCG formula and different homeopathic formulas and different ways of administering.
I noticed that too, because originally it wasn't enforced as a prescription because there were so many knockoffs, right? I mean, there are all these synthetics, and I bought a couple of products that I thought were HCG because they had HCG in the title, and find out later it wasn't. It never worked for me until I actually went through a doctor. That brings me to where we're at today and why we're having this podcast. So many people were approaching me saying, we can't get it. This works so well for you. And by the way, just a side note, this is 7 months later and I have kept the weight off. I know that's anecdotal, but oh my God, it has been life-changing for me. Like, the way that I've been able to keep it, that's never happened. That's never happened with me.
I think an important side note to that, though, for you, Brittney, is that you also really changed a lot about your diet and your lifestyle. I mean, you've really embraced, health experimentation and implementing different diet and lifestyle changes that also have for example, fasting, for one. There's nothing more studied for weight loss than fasting. It's the single most studied thing when it comes to weight loss for people. And just fasting alone and fasting protocols, which I know, and you can speak to kind of what you do now for fasting and how you eat and things, but that alone has a really profound impact on weight loss and hormonal effects of, producing hormonal effects and visceral fat loss and all of that as well.
Yeah, definitely. I don't even know if I told you this, though. I'm like big into this intermittent fasting thing, especially for longevity. I had tried that right before the HCG, and I went 20 hours without food. I commonly go 24 hours without food at this point, and then I eat a healthy, nutritious meal. And so far, guys, the blood work is reflecting positively. But I didn't tell you this, but before the HCG, I tried that. And I nearly passed out. I blacked out a couple of times. I couldn't remember where I was at. It was almost like I was having blood sugar issues. Tested my ketones, at least with a urine test strip, however accurate that may be. I didn't register ketones. And after the HCG, once I got on it and then following getting off of it, I found I was able to fast without a problem. So it seemed to change something in my chemistry where it like removed that roadblock, I guess, to give me success. And that kind of brings us to the peptide treatments, because with HCG being pulled everywhere we turn, guys, I came to Alexis, like, she's my personal doctor. I trust her so much. And I emailed her and I said, hey, what can we do to give people something like HCG that will actually help them? So why don't you tell us a little bit about the peptide treatments?
Sure. So I think one of the big pros from HCG, I'm not an HCG expert. I wasn't part of a clinic that did a lot of HCG. And so I don't have a ton other than, just the basics and kind of where things are now. With when I came into medicine, the timing of everything, it's not something that I had a huge knowledge base on using HCG. And so I don't have a lot of theories of the mechanisms either. What has been something that I've studied significantly and used a lot in my own clinical practice is the use of something called peptides. Anytime you have a weight loss treatment, you're kind of looking at 4 primary areas that you want to target. So there's your metabolism, there's utilization of fat, there is insulin sensitivity, and appetite. I mean, can go into, things that affect all those areas, but peptide therapies really, they can target all 4 of those areas, but one that is really, really effective is in targeting your metabolism and helping your body to kind of communicate better. So peptides are these natural signaling agents made up of a chain of amino acids that basically help us to create normal functioning or homeostasis in the body. And so it's a way of kind of helping your cells to communicate, helping to remind them of their normal function. Hormones are peptides. So things like insulin, for example, was one of the kind of first synthesized peptides outside of the body. So they're kind of hormone communicators that help your body to come into balance. And so you can imagine that would be really, really helpful if you have hormone imbalance or for example, if you have low testosterone, and that's one of the pieces that's contributing to the fact that you are at a weight loss plateau or you can't build muscle mass. The interesting thing about peptides is that they have a really short half-life, so they don't really last that long. They are metabolized in the serum. And so what they do is they kind of serve as these reminders. They're reminders that our body recognizes, and it helps to bring forth normal function. So there is a particular peptide combo that I use a lot for weight loss that is a growth hormone secretagogue, which means that it helps growth hormone to be secreted. And growth hormone is basically, it does exactly what it sounds like. It stimulates growth and cell reproduction and cell regeneration, and it helps increase your metabolism. So growth hormone is something that raises at night when you sleep, which is why you have to sleep really great to have healthy metabolism. Mm-hmm. And it's also something that we can stimulate through different compounds. And 2 of these compounds one of them is called sermorelin and the other one is called glycine. And they're 2 different peptides that they've combined together into a formula that is injected right under the level of the skin. And you can also take it orally, but it's more effective in research injecting it right under the layer of the skin.
As is pretty much everything, I think.
I know, it gets into the bloodstream, easier and faster. It doesn't have to go through your digestive system and be broken down. And so, it's basically there are several ways that you can do the treatment, but that's the most effective one. And it's a similar hormone structure to something called growth hormone releasing hormone. And so it's a way to kind of stimulate your own pituitary gland, which is in your brain that releases growth hormone. It's a way to stimulate that gland to release more hormone so that you can break down more fat and increase lean muscle mass and improve hormone balance. Growth hormone, when you stimulate that, it also helps to enhance your energy and your libido and your immune system and your memory. And so there's a lot of other kind of beneficial side effects that happen when you do this treatment.
It sounds truly amazing because a lot of these are the things that I experience with HCG and what I was hearing about HCG. And it's as a matter of fact, I think some are calling these peptide treatments a new form of HCG. It's different, right? But they're kind of referring to it as the new HCG because it does a very similar thing. What are some of the differences between peptide treatments and HCG? And is this a good alternative now that HCG is off the market?
I think that it's so the peptide treatments are a really good fit for some people. It really depends on kind of what your underlying combination of factors are that are contributing to obesity or difficulty with fat loss or kind of your weight loss plateau. And so depending on that kind of combination of factors, if hormonal imbalance and particularly growth hormone is a factor that is, or testosterone, for example, is a factor that is contributing to the issue, then it's really, really effective for that group of people. It can be effective for men and women because men and women have the effective growth hormone affects both men and women, as well as testosterone. Testosterone is really known as a hormone that is the male hormone, but women also need healthy levels of testosterone. And without testosterone in women, it causes a lot of weight gain and difficulty with fat loss and difficulty building muscle mass and difficulty with sleep and sex drive. And so there's, I think a wide variety of people that can benefit from peptide therapy. It's a little bit hard to compare them side by side because there's definitely a lot more research in terms of these GH secretagogues that stimulate growth hormone, a lot more than HCG. And so it's hard to really compare them side by side. I think the big pros of HCG that I can tell just from kind of looking at a lot of the anecdotal evidence and talking to people like you who had a positive experience is that it gave people a lot of hope that something can be done on an underlying level rather than just putting a Band-Aid on the issue and then eventually not really fixing, the underlying cause of their problems. It had lasting effects, it seems like, and people experienced really positive things from it. And I think that gave people a lot of hope. And the good news is there are other things that work on this kind of hormonal or kind of cell signaling or cell communication level that are perhaps just have more research behind them.
I was going to ask, why do you think peptide treatments, because the FDA, as far as I know, they haven't attacked this at all. Is there a reason? Maybe there's more research, or is there a reason this is more accepted? Or maybe it's just new.
Well, actually peptides have been used for a really, really long time. In Russia and Croatia specifically have been researching them for a very, very long time. And like I was saying, insulin is a peptide treatment, and that's been used, I think, since somewhere around the 20s.
So it's a delivery system.
So you can kind of think of it like that. It's a delivery system. And I think that in terms of the FDA, they actually have cracked down on a lot of the peptides because it became a really hot item again, and people were buying them from shady places on the internet that didn't have good safety profiles and all of that. And so
shady places.
I know people were getting it, guys. Wanted to get into the game. You got to get him from
pulled it out of his trunk, literally like down a back alley, and put his suit on. Come on.
Yeah, you got to get it from a reputable source. But recently, and I don't know the exact ruling on this, but the FDA ruled that you can't sell or you can't create peptide products that are over a certain number of amino acid sequence length. And so I don't know if it's 30, I'd have to double check to see what the length is that they limited, but it actually took a lot of the peptides that have been previously used, especially for things like weight loss, off the market until things are researched more and studied. And so now some of these shorter peptides like sermorelin and glycine, like I was talking about, sermorelin is 29 amino acids and glycine is, I think, around 20. And so they fit within the parameter of whatever the FDA set of these are okay to use. And there's just more research coming out about them. We know a little bit more about their safety profile just going back in time. And so I think it's a good option. And I think they're here to stay. It's just a matter of, doing continued research, making sure they're approved for certain treatments and people, and making sure that they're safe, and figuring out who they might not be a good fit for, and doing further research like that.
That's one thing I've learned more than ever when I found you, because I have to say, you did the biggest, I don't want to scare people, you did the biggest freaking blood draw I've had in my life. It wasn't a bad experience though. It was actually the easiest blood work that I've ever had done, because I was able to, she has had me print this little slip out. She's got a contract with like a network of places. So I could kind of go at my leisure because my schedule's chaotic. Anyway, you went over every freaking parameter of health and with more scrutiny than any doctor ever has, like to bat for me. I felt like I was getting presidential health care. You know how when the president's sick, he's getting access to like all these treatments nobody else has. That's what I felt like with you because you crawled over the blood work. So I'm understanding more than ever the importance of not taking a cookie cutter approach, I guess, to weight loss, to health, to anything. Because like with what I experienced with the intermittent fasting, I nearly passed out. I'm a truck driver. If I pass out at the wheel because I have a glucose issue or maybe insulin insensitivity or something like that, I could kill somebody. And yet now it works for me, but I kind of found something that fixed that. So I think it's so important.
It's a really important issue that you bring up, because I think what's missing from a lot of weight loss programs, all of them really across the board, is that there's no assessment. And the assessment is the most important fundamental thing that you need with every weight loss program. Weight loss programs that are cookie cutter, that are the same for everyone, no matter what it is, whether it's peptides or HCG or fasting or whatever. If it's a cookie cutter approach that's meant to work for everyone, that just does not exist. It's not going to work for everyone. Weight loss is such an individual issue. And I think the way that I try to visualize this with people is, if you imagine a wheel and you have a bunch of different spokes in the wheel, those different spokes are represented by different aspects that affect weight loss and your ability to lose fat. So there's your diet, for example, there's the amount that you move in a day, there's your exercise, there's your sleep, there's stress, there's your thyroid function, there's your reproductive hormones, there's insulin sensitivity issues and glucose issues and toxicity and your mental emotional health and nutrient levels. And so there's all these spokes. And for each person, the length of the spoke is different. So for, person A, it might be all about thyroid. For person B, it might be about, thyroid and nutrients and sleep and stress and diet. And so you have to figure out kind of the length of all those spokes for each person, and then take a treatment program and superimpose it on that so that all of those areas are being addressed. And so when you have a weight loss program and you don't do that initial assessment, and for me, I use blood work because I think it's the easiest, the most affordable, and the kind of most fundamental and well-researched tool that we have to kind of take the hood off the car and figure out what's going on in the engine. It's a crucial piece of any weight loss program, and that's the part that's missing for most of them. And so to me, talking about peptides or HCG or any other weight loss thing, it's not really, the most important thing we need to talk about is the assessment.
I completely agree. And I was one of the ones that, avoid doctors that, wanted a whole bunch of blood work and analytics and everything before a weight loss treatment. Cause it's like, really, do I really need that? Come on. I'm just wanting to lose some weight, blah, 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 blah. But I understand more than ever now. Like, you have won me over on this because, and I'm not a doctor, but I've really dug in over the last couple of years to understand more about my health and take an active role. And the human body is so complex. And I kind of look at it this way. It's like, every one of us are so unique. Like, there's nobody like you. Like, to everybody watching, there's nobody just like you. You are invaluable. As an artist, as a video creator, like, I see the beauty in all of that. All of us have challenges at different levels. And unless we have that blood work, we don't know what we're dealing with. And a lot of those things can be fixed. And that's another thing that I love about Alexis, because my other doctor kind of took the approach of like, you get old, you're going to die, you're going to deal with things. We'll put you on some meds and slap a Band-Aid on it. And Alexis over here like, no, let's try to figure out what's causing this and see if we can and get to the root of the problem instead of just treating the symptom. And I love that. Like, that's a big difference in functional medicine, right? Versus like standard care, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in standard care, it's really a different, they work together. So standard care of medicine is super important for, emergency medicine, for example, when someone has an advanced disease process that needs to be managed with medications, for example. Functional medicine, although, medications can be a part of that protocol, if it's the best fit for that person, the least harmful at that time. It's more of an approach where we're looking at the underlying cause of health issues. And so I have people coming to me all the time that are like, my doctor said that this symptom and this symptom and this symptom is completely normal for my age. I'm supposed to, gain weight and sleep poorly and not have a libido and be completely, fatigued during the day. That's just normal for my age. And it makes me cringe when people say that, because it's not normal. It might be very common, but if those things are happening, those are signs from your body that there's something out of balance, that there needs to be something addressed. And so, although it's more common as you age for those things to start happening, because your body kind of loses a little bit of its ability to adapt to stress, which all of those problems, sleep problems with a lifetime of breathing in toxins in the air and eating toxins in food, all of that stuff does accumulate over time for sure. And your body changes as you age for sure. But when you start developing issues like that, it's really a sign that there's something fundamental underlying that is going on that needs to be kind of looked at and addressed.
I love the passion behind that. And I feel that as a patient. Like, I've never felt, you've spent 45 minutes or something in our initial consult. It was crazy. I've never, every doctor that's come in has spent maybe 2 minutes tops. It's like, do you even know me? What's going on?
I mean, I feel so fortunate to be able to do that, because honestly, with a conventional medicine model, they don't have that time. There isn't that time. They would love to spend it if they have it, but it doesn't fit the model of trying to see as many people as possible. And most primary care doctors are completely, just overworked and overbooked, because so many people need to be seen in a short period of time. And so it's something that when I was going through medical school, we go through rounds with different doctors just to see what is the lifestyle, how do they, how do they function, how do they run their practice, what is their day-to-day like, and as well as learning all the, just learning medicine alongside. Those are the things that I really took home from primary care doctors, is they're exhausted. They don't have enough time. They would love to be able to spend more time getting to know you and diving into some of these deeper things, but it's just not in that model. And so functional medicine kind of takes a different role, and it's not either or. We need both. We need people to be using functional medicine to keep themselves well. And when things are at a point where emergency medicine is needed, or there's a chronic disease that is very advanced that needs management, there might also be a role for your functional medicine doctor and your your GP, your conventional GP, to work together for things. And when I work with clients, I do all consulting right now, so I can see people all over the world, but I'm always, working alongside with their local doctor.
Seeing how crucial that is to success in weight loss, and being able to address these obstacles that are in the way that people run into, the way, like the insulin insensitivity. Is there a way to explain that in a very concise, simple way to where people understand it? Because it seems to cause blood sugar issues, doesn't it? When it's almost like your body's refusing to burn the fat for energy when you're reducing the calories.
Yeah, and that, put very simply, I think is a good way to say it. So basically, let's go over really quickly how your body stores energy. When you eat food, you typically eat more than what your body needs to use right at that moment for energy. And so some of that energy has to be stored. And the hormone that controls how much energy is stored is called insulin. So insulin is the key that unlocks the door that lets the food that you just ate into the cells to feed your cells. When no more of that, when that food isn't needed at that amount anymore, or when all your cells have been fed, that's a better way to say it, some of that energy needs to be stored for later. And there is two ways that our body stores energy for later. One of them is called glycogen. Glycogen are stores of molecules, basically energy molecules in the liver. And there's a limit on how much you can store in glycogen. And then the second one is that we can store energy in fat cells. Fortunately and unfortunately, there is no limit to the amount of fat that we can store in the liver and around the body. And so basically insulin is this gatekeeper that is controlling how your cells utilize energy. And if you have insulin resistance is a resistance in the ability of your body to create and store energy, essentially. So it's a really, really big issue, and it's a fundamental issue when we're dealing with, for example, weight gain, especially around your midsection. So if you are someone that has really, you lose weight everywhere else first except for your stomach, or you're just packing on a lot of, we call it visceral fat, which is around your organs. Visceral fat is a really high risk for chronic disease.
Yep, and that's what I had too. It was really, it was like off the charts high.
It's nasty. It's nasty stuff. It accumulates quickly in some people. Some of that is genetically driven. But also if you have blood sugar regulation issues, specifically insulin resistance, it seems like that area of the body is what really likes to accumulate fat. So so that's kind of the breakdown of how your body utilizes energy and insulin resistance.
And the reason I wanted you to explain that was because that's a perfect example of, like you said, so many of the roadblocks that people run into. And until we get the blood work back, until you talk to the patient, you don't know what it is they're dealing with. And the way I see this, what excites me is once you remove those roadblocks, it's like, at least with me, it was like, oh my God, I just got on the highway of success. It's like, I'm dropping the weight, lost 45 pounds. My visceral fat's normal. My blood pressure is like 1 point from normal at this point. It was through the roof high, guys. It was like crazy. But so many of my overall health changed. My life changed. More energy, like to do what I do. Like, it's incredible. I approached Alexis and I said, what can we do? We've got a lot of people that need help and need to see the weight actually come off this time. What can we do to help? So why don't you tell them a little bit about what we came up with and how we can help those watching?
Sure. So that particular combo, sermorelin and glycine, it's not a good fit for everybody, but it can be a really effective thing if it's something that you need to help ramp up your metabolism. Although there are other things that help to ramp up metabolism, just like fasting does that as well. So that's one piece of the puzzle. And then some of the other ones that are really interesting is to help your body to utilize fat more efficiently. There is a fat loss cream that is a combination of aminophylline and glycerinic acid that is made from licorice. And it basically helps. It's a cream that you apply to kind of problem areas. So it's more of a sculpting cream. If you have a lot of fat to lose in that particular region, it's not going to help until you get things to come down a little bit, because it's more of it shrinks the sub-Q fat cells under the surface. The sub-Q or subcutaneous is right under the surface of the skin. So it helps to shrink those cells and helps to sculpt. So one of the things
that like seriously, I don't mean to interrupt, but that like seriously works.
Yeah, it's amazing, actually. Yeah, as a sculpting cream, but people are using it on their waist mostly. There was a study of 50 men and women aged around 20 to 65 that had a BMI over 27, and they put them on a walking program, 1,200 calorie diet a day, and then half of the group got this sculpting cream. And the group that used the sculpting cream, their waist circumference went down by 11 centimeters. I think it was in about 2 months. Whereas the group that just did the walking and the diet changes was down 5 centimeters. So from 11 to 5 with just that, applying that cream every night is a pretty significant difference. There needs to be more studies done, obviously, but that was a really promising one. In terms of insulin sensitivity, you can use herbs like berberine, which it's kind of a watered down effect of metformin to help kind of get your cells more sensitive to insulin so that it can utilize energy better. And then to decrease appetite.
I was just going to say, side note, there's a lot of research being done right now, talk about longevity benefits with berberine as well, which I actually just started taking it this last week. So for the longevity side.
Yeah. It's really something that really helps with reducing your hepatic glucose production and the absorption of glucose and the uptake of glucose. And we know all of those effects exist for metformin in a really big level. Not everybody is a candidate or needs metformin at that, but berberine can kind of serve as something that can help a wider variety of people, especially before it gets to that kind of type 2 diabetes realm. So there's really great combinations of berberine and DHEA, which helps to naturally increase testosterone and the peptides. And then for decreasing appetite, which is kind of that fourth area, 5-HTP is something that can be utilized for that. There's been some smaller studies on 5-HTP and appetite control, because 5-HTP stimulates serotonin, and serotonin is kind of the feel-good hormone that contributes to an overall sense of well-being and happiness in your brain. They're finding that taking 5-HTP can actually help people who need more serotonin in their brain to have that feel-good molecule. And it's associated with less food intake, mostly from carbohydrates. And so that's also a really interesting study and a avenue that can be treated if appetite is something that you struggle with. The program that we put together, just kind of a quick overview, the first part is an initial weight loss assessment. So it's that assessment that I feel like is missing from all weight loss programs. It's a really extensive online questionnaire that goes through all those spokes in the wheel to figure out what your combination is. And then it's a comprehensive blood test that goes through lots of, nutrients and thyroid and making sure your hormones are balanced, and a whole list of blood tests that are related to finding out the best combination of weight loss program for you. And then at the end of that, we do a call to review your results, what they mean, so that you can really understand kind of what factors are the contributing factors for you, what are the underlying factors. And then from that, we put together a custom plan, or I recommend which plan at that point is the best fit for you. So with the initial weight loss assessment, that's typically $450. It includes the questionnaire, the blood test, and a 40-minute call where we review the options for treatment.
And that's with the blood test too, you said?
Yeah, that's with it, includes the blood test. We're going to open that up for as an option for 10 people. And coming from your podcast, also a $100 coupon code. So it'll bring the total cost down to $350 for the initial assessment. I'm going to open it up to 10 people. And after those 10 spots are taken, we're going to close the program at that time, only because that's about as many people as I can take on with my existing consulting practice. So we'll probably reopen it again at some point, but I don't know when that will be. It'll kind of depend on my schedule and when I can fit that in again. So there'll be 10 people that can go through that initial assessment. So after that initial assessment, we'll go through kind of what the treatment options are and the cost for those treatments. They might include a custom fasting program, the fat sculpting cream that we talked about, the sculpting cream that you can use on your waist and like under arms and thighs. And then things like a custom health program for sleep and hormones and digestion and detox and movement, exercise. Perhaps the peptide treatment you're a good candidate for. So it really depends on what the person needs. And what we do is create a custom program after that initial assessment that will have various different price points that will kind of fit all budgets, and put together a custom protocol that makes sense for that person, not just because it's a cookie cutter approach.
And one thing that I would say to people is that I truly trust Alexis. And, if you're sitting there, you're watching this, you've been struggling like I have, and so many of us have, with yo-yo dieting, and nothing seems to be working. It's just like life itself, it's like life slapping you in the face and roadblocks. You're smashing into walls. Nothing's working. Don't waste another second, guys. Like, do something for you today, because it's make an investment in yourself. And that's one thing that I've always said, even with entrepreneurial stuff, with your education, have an education budget, invest in your health. You know, sometimes we do so many things for the people we care about that are around us, but what happens if we're not there 6 months down the road for them? I mean, Dad's had a heart attack like several times. Like we almost lost him twice over the last year. But I just encourage everybody watching, don't waste another second. Where can people go to contact you and find this?
I'll share with you a web page that will be a private web page on my website that will be just specifically for, you know, your listeners, that you can go to and see if one of those 10 spots is remaining. If you happen to listen to this and it's after those 10 spots are taken, don't worry about it. I'll, you know, collect your email and let you know when the next one opens up. And so, yeah, it'll have all the details on there and what it includes. And if you have any questions, you can always email me as well. There's a contact page on my website. My website is dralexisshields.com. And yeah, and we'll just go from there.
We will put as you guys can see, the link on the screen, we will have it there, and as well as in the description below. And like I said, guys, I encourage you, do not waste another second. Go see Alexis. I wish we could clone you. Like, I wish there was, maybe we'll get to that point. I really do, because I wish we had thousands of you, because you could help so many people. Like, I am so blessed to know you.
Thank you. And luckily, I think, you know, there are more and more doctors, whether it's, you know, naturopathic doctors or osteopaths or medical doctors, that are becoming more interested in functional medicine and are training in functional medicine. And so I think it is becoming more widely available, but still, you know, not anywhere near what it needs to be to kind of meet the needs of people across the country and in the world. And yeah, I'm definitely, we need all the people that we can get. And I think also another really important thing is people like you who are extremely interested and informed on health and willing to, you know, experiment with different treatments and different diets and different supplements and herbs and figure out, you know, really kind of taking your own health into your own hands and doing it in a smart way. I think we need more people like this, because that gets doctors talking about different treatments. And even though some of those treatments might eventually get taken down for a period of time, I think it's all good in the end game to move medicine forward. And there's always something that we can do as a replacement that will have, you know, similar good benefits. And so if you're somebody who is disappointed by HCG being taken, you know, being removed, or you had really good success with it in the past, this isn't really to diminish any of that success, because I think that is fantastic if that was your experience. And my kind of hope is to give you hope that there are other options out there that can produce some of those similar effects and help kind of match your body with a treatment that will be just as effective.
I know I was interviewing book author Eileen Smith recently. She does somatic experiencing. It's helping a lot of people. And I asked her, you know, is this becoming more widely accepted in the field? Kind of like this functional medicine thing, right? And one thing she said that is so true, she said the science wins in the end. It will always win in the end. And I believe that we're seeing that happen in so many cases and seeing this progress. So
absolutely.
Thank you so much for being on the podcast, guys. Once again, go to the link on the screen in the description. Do not waste another second. I'm telling you, invest in your health. Go see Alexis. She's amazing.